Shemakshabhiryajatraha Sthirairanjaihi Sushtupadam Sastanubhihi Vyashemadevahitayadayuhu Swasti na indro vruddashravaha Swasti na pusha vishvavedaha Swasti nastarsho arishtanemihi Swasti no brahaspatir dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we will revise, and you all will revise. The only thing I got feedback from quite a few people that keep your revisions short, so that we don't spend too much time, and let everybody have some inputs, right? I mean, I don't want to force anybody, but just try to say things because it's good for you, right? I mean, not everybody has to say, but just let everybody participate. So one person maybe starts, and then, everybody please feel free to kind of add your inputs, right? And whatever you want to say, keep it slightly shorter, because then, we have so much still to cover, even though it seems like we covered a lot, but we still have many things to do. Okay, so who will start? You'll start?
Alright. Mantra 6.
Okay.
There was a point in Mantra 6 that the keyword was avarinam,
Okay.
attributeless.
Yes.
So this is the definition of Brahman, consciousness.
Okay.
And the analogy of attributeless is like taking or having a clear bucket of water.
Yes.
And whatever dye we place into that bucket, that color is known, only because the water is clear. So there, in that case, the water has no attributes, hence it can give the visibility or the knowership to whatever content enters the bucket. Similarly, attributeless can mean, as a metaphor, like having a white screen. And only because of its whiteness can the image imposed onto it be exactly known for what it is. Any inputs?
Okay, so now in this whole verse where we were talking about the nature of Atma, which is, when we say mantra 6, he means Yat adrashyam agrahyam agotram avarnam achakshuhu shotram tat apanipadam. This is the verse we are talking about. Do you have any other inputs? Yes?
We were talking about the question, how can this one without any attributes become the many with all the attributes?
So this verse led us to, as Yuta is saying, ask that question, right? Because in this verse, you describe it as, on one hand, avyaya, right? This cause, which is equivalent to gold, is something which is what it doesn't undergo any change. And at the same time, it is also described as Vibhu. Vibhu means it is something which becomes many. So this verse makes us, right, ask this question, how can this cause, right, on one hand cannot undergo a change and on the other hand become many, yeah? But also what we understood about this cause is what, that it is something which is equivalent to gold, so it inheres everything. Even though it inheres everything, we are not able to what? See it. We are not able to hear it. We are not able to what? Touch it. Right? And we are also what? Why we are not able to do it? Because itself, it has what? No attributes and no forms. Right? So therefore, this then what is it? It is described further. What is the description of this? It has no attributes. Then what it is? It is Nitya. Nitya means what? It is not subject to time. And then what? Vibhu is, as I just explained, it becomes many, and it is Sarvagatam. Sarvagatam is what? It is all pervasive. And at the same time, as Surya pointed out, the word is beautiful, it is susukshma. It's beautiful because even though, look, even though it's not available for your ears, even though it's not available for your your hearing, it itself has no form, then the next question is, then how can I know it? Right? Because everything that I'm used to knowing is only through the engagement of my senses. So then, what susukshma means, this is why you need Upanishads, to point out that, hey, there is this self-revealing presence which we keep missing. Right? So that means you have to listen to the words of Upanishads. And you also have to follow the methodology that Upanishads employ to come to know what this, how is this presence given to you as a self-revealing presence. In Sanskrit, we call it what? Oh, very good. Good. In Sanskrit, it is called Swataha Siddha. Swataha Siddha means it's self-revealing, self-shining. It is never displaced. Right? So if it is self-revealing, self-shining, why is it that we miss it? Because our self-image is stuck with something which is an object. And this is why, even though, and it is that which enables us to see those objects. So what happens is that that is missed out, and one object, which is this given body and mind, is taken as I. That's why we miss it. Okay? So now, you have to, when you listen to Upanishads, you have to be what? Following the methodology sharply, susukshma, right? You can't just say, oh, generally I understand. There is no such thing called generally. It's like, you know, it's like me telling E is equal to mc squared, I generally understand. Yeah, I generally understand that, yeah, okay, matter changes into energy and energy changes into matter, right? But when a physicist makes the same statement, E is equal to mc squared, there is ocean of knowledge behind him. Where each step is what? Totally clear. And how do you come from this thing to that thing? There is ocean of knowledge and years of physics. And you can't say, oh, I and that physicist are exactly the same. He only has some details which I don't have. Right? So that means what you really need to do is understand what is called knowing. Knowing is intricate. Any advanced learning is intricate. Right? So that means you have to be clear. Without being clear about each step, in any learning it's like that. Each part plays a very crucial, critical role in building the whole picture. Right? So therefore, for the mind to hold the true nature, it has to understand too many things. And that's why it has to be a sharp and clear and, healthy mind. And this is why Amba was saying, for my understanding, mind is the key. For one's understanding, mind is the key. Yeah? Okay. So, this is what we say, susukshmam. And this is why here he says that paripashyanti dhiraha. The wise people using this Upanishads, using the methodology with a teacher, we see this reality clearly. Okay? So, and that is what, so the final thing it is avyayam. It is not undergoing any change. Okay? So now, as Surya very rightly pointed out, it can create a thing. On one hand, you are saying it is without undergoing any change. On the other hand, you are saying it is becoming many. How is it possible? Okay? So the next verse kind of gives a few examples of how one thing can become many. Right? So what are the three examples that were given?
The earth and all the products coming from the earth.
Yes.
The spider and the web.
Yes.
And the hair.
And the hair.
And the okay. And yes. And what was the purpose of three examples?
Out of the spider comes many.
Yes.
From the hair, that is the insentiency, comes from the sentiency, from what is conscious. And the other example of the tree, that is how many varieties can come from the one whole.
Excellent.
And you can also say earth from insentient comes sentient.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you repeat this please? Because it was not loud enough for me.
Andre, come back to your full form.
I didn't hear you. Now so.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
just say it. All right, so the first example, spider web. So off the spider comes the web. So therefore, from one comes the many. The tree comes from the whole, and what comes out of the earth comes different plants and different varieties. And finally, the last example, from conscious, quote, being comes even inconscious, that is insentiency. 5 elements.
Okay. So that's, yeah, Dara.
Is the art insentient? The art itself?
Sorry?
Is the art insentient?
Okay, now for the time being, see, what is the definition of sentient and insentient? That also we need to know. Because, what Dara is asking is a very tricky question. I cannot give a very categorical answer. So I have to actually, it's good, what you are asking is very good. First, let's define what is sentient and insentient. When you open your eyes, yeah, and look at the world, you'll have two kind of objects. You'll have many different objects, but you will have two different kinds of objects. One is what, like human beings, animals, birds, aquatic creatures. They are all able to kind of move. They are alive, and they are able to interact with the universe to a certain extent, right? So that means they also have their, so in Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a beautiful example, and it's about a cow, right? So the cow, suppose you go to a cow with a grass, right? And a smiling face, what will a cow do? It will come towards you, right? And suppose you go to a cow raising a stick, what will the cow do? Run away, right? So that means this capacity to respond. So the cow has the eyes, and the eyes it has some brain which is able to process the data and respond accordingly. So these are what we call living beings. They are alive and they are able to respond to the environment in a certain way. Okay? Now, the non-sentient being that we talk about is like the mountains, the rocks, the water, right? So the mountain, maybe it can have a lot of trees, and you want to, chop all the trees. The mountain doesn't rebel. The politician or some environmentalist may stop you, but the mountain doesn't say, don't strip me off all the trees. In fact, you will suffer as a result. It doesn't have the capacity to engage and talk to you, right? So therefore, this is what we call insentient. Okay? So they are both, one is what we call living beings. They have some, living means prana, right, which makes their body, whichever that form is, alive. And also they have some basic senses and primitive or advanced mind, depending upon what living being it is, which enables it to interact with the universe either in a limited way or in an advanced way, depending upon the mind it enjoys. Is it clear?
They have some kind of sukshma sharira, to put
They
it
have,
differently.
yeah. So what accounts for this difference, exactly as Surya is saying, we saw that right now in you, there are how many shariras we saw yesterday?
3.
Yeah, right now there are 3. Which ones?
Physical, subtle and causal.
Wonderful. So right now what is, the causal has many, many different causes. So what has come into manifestation is what?
Subtle and physical.
Excellent. Right? The subtle and physical has come into manifestation. Many other causes are yet to come into manifestation sometime in the future. Right? So that means that this physical and subtle, so what enables me to engage with the world is the subtle body. That's why at the time of death, what happens is the same body is becoming inert. It becomes like stone.
Insentient.
It's unable to interact with the universe. The physical body is exactly the same as before. What has happened is the subtle has left the body. Okay? So that means the alive body has sukshma sharira, right? And then what we call a dead body, what has happened is sukshma sharira has left the body. Body is rendered incapable of interacting with the universe. So what we do is either burn it or bury it. It is no longer able to interact with the universe. Whereas the insentient being, as Surya says, what they don't have is sukshma sharira. They only have a physical form, right? That's why they are not able to interact with the universe. Mountain is not able to tell you stop deforestation. It's not able to tell you that.
And is the earth itself, does that have a sukshma sharira?
Which one?
The earth itself.
The
right?
earth, yeah. So what we ultimately we will see, I will come to you, it's an excellent question. So let's come to the next verse and I will explain. And if I forget to explain, you remind me. Because it's very, very good what you are saying. I will explain it.
So the plant world would be insentient then?
No. Plant world is sentient. Plant is biologically, if you ask, they don't have the capacity to kind of tell you because the senses are very primitive, but they do feel pain. They do feel pain.
And they are not able to move, but still.
But
I
they
mean,
are-
there are some books, recent books, which
Yeah.
show how much they are sensitive and they
They're
create
interacting.
community.
Interactive.
Yeah.
No, it is
So
sentient.
they have
It is sentient.
sukshma.
They respond to the sun, they respond to different
Yeah.
conditions.
Yes, they respond to many music. They respond to so many things. Yeah. Okay.
It's not a question of sensitivity, because could be in former times people are saying plants are sentient, insentient, and then they found out that they react on things. Could be that in the future we also find a method to see how mountains are communicating. I remember, I only
Okay.
see if, for example, tribes, they speak with the nature,
Yeah.
no? They speak with Mother Earth.
Yeah.
So what they have a as connection, they have a something.
There are, I mean, in fact, there are some movies also which show that the water, you know, when you put music,
Yeah.
the molecules change and all. So we will, I mean, we don't want to get too much into it because that's really not the point. The thing is, what we will see is what accounts for all of this. It's similar to Dada's question that, you know, this what we call insentient is, according to Vedanta, what is the definition of insentient? That which doesn't have Sukshma Sharira. Just for now, right? But still, it exhibits some intelligence, and we will see why. It's part of the next verse. Yeah. So what did we see in the next verse? Yeah, Christoph.
Yes, I have one more question. But why does it give the example here that an insentient thing, like the earth, can produce sentient things? Why is this example given?
Okay. I mean, I think for me, this example is given for showing that from one thing, varieties can come. So that is how I take this example, right? So what it means is that you can say, if only one consciousness is the cause of everything, why do I see the differences between human beings, between human and birds and aquatic creatures, right? So there one example is given which shows from one thing many different things can come, right? Of different qualities, different things. So for me, that's the example.
Okay, but then it's not that important that an insentient thing can lead to a sentient
Yeah,
thing.
so that's Surya,
Because
you
that's-
have an answer.
because that's the important point to me.
So
Because
the idea is that the Upanishad, for me, the way we saw it with Swamiji, is that the cause is giving birth to both sentient and insentient, that you can say, is it sentient or insentient, this cause? So then it gives both examples. It gives, yeah, there is no rule that only from a sentient cause can come sentient being. In fact, it's giving both examples. From insentient, which is just the earth, for the time being, can come sentient things, and from also sentient things can come insentient. So it breaks your kind of like logic.
Yeah, because it's, to me, it's a personal important point, because I used to think that only a sentient thing can produce sentient and insentient things, but not the way around.
Yeah.
That's my-
So let's look at.
We'll come to it more.
See, the thing is that the next verse will explain. See, I mean, it's very good to, but what we also then, these are just, see, examples are just creating possibilities, and they are actually, breaking certain norm that you have. After that, the reality has to be explained, no? Right? So that still needs to be explained. And the next verse is explaining that. So what is the next verse explaining? The whole evening we spent on it.
It explains Maya and Iva and how consciousness by means of potentiality comes into manifestation.
Very good, Rosanna. Excellent. Okay? So what we saw is this whole big picture. Very good. It explains that, okay, from this consciousness, how did this whole universe, which consists of time, space, objects, and also the laws which govern the interaction of the objects, how did it come about? Okay? So, what is Maya?
Potential and all knowledge and all power.
Excellent. So that means this all knowledge and all power. So it's a potential of whom, when you say potential, it is of whom?
Consciousness.
Excellent. Wonderful. Right? So that means the consciousness with reference to its potential to manifest manifest the whole universe is given the name called Maya. And what does this potential consist of?
All knowledge and all power.
Excellent. All knowledge and all power. Okay? Now, when the universe comes into manifestation, what happens? This all knowledge and all power gets another name. And what is that name? Excellent. Very good. It gets another name called Ishvara, right? And therefore, so the whole universe then, what it means is, it's a manifestation of, for the time being, Ishvara, right? Right? Because its manifestation, there is so much knowledge and then there is so much power in everything that we see. Okay? What is the truth of Ishvara? Right? So that means, look at this. When we say, now the universe becomes manifest as the Ishvara manifests now as the universe. Wherever there is Ishvara, all knowledge and all power, the truth of Ishvara, which is what? Consciousness, has to be there. Do you understand? Yeah. So therefore, wherever you look in the creation, you will find two things. What will you find? All knowledge and all power, Ishvara. And you will also find what? Consciousness. Excellent. It inheres, like the gold, inheres what? Every ornament. Okay? So when you look at this body, right, you find one thing, which is what? The body, which is the object, right? Which is this physical body. Where there is physical body, which I call my body, yeah. Right? There exactly there is Ishvara. Why is there Ishvara? Because I did not sit and construct my body. If I had done that, I would have wanted to be 5 kilos less. A little fairer, probably. Right? So that means that we don't construct. This is why, yes, your karmas, but you don't sit and do it. That's why there is Ishvara involved, right? So therefore, that's exactly where there is Ishvara. I have come with this body, which is highly complex body, which is so intricately designed, and I can't claim to have created it. And it exhibits so much intelligence that even if you go to medical school and you're a Nobel laureate, you still don't totally understand all the mechanisms 100%. So this is why there is intelligence. Now, when I look at this changing body, even though it's an amazing design, it's constantly changing, right? From a child, it is programmed to become a youth. From youth, it is programmed to become an adult. From an adult, it is programmed to decline. That decline, right? So, and then one day go away. That follows a certain order. I have also not created that order. There is an intelligence which makes your body age and also my body age. No matter how much I try to hide my age, every night before the retreat, Yuta and Anna remind me, Neema, can you cover your grace? You want to color your hair?
I offer it to you.
They offer me. They offer me, hey, you want to cover your grace so that you look a little bit more.
Don't believe her.
Totally pratibhasika. Just to make everyone laugh like how he does. Okay, right? So therefore, what happens is you can resist it, but at the same time, if you were the Lord, you would have created the system in a way that this body always looks young, always beautiful, doesn't age and it never dies. But it doesn't happen your way. I'm sorry. Right? So there are some laws, and that laws is what we call Ishvara. The presence of this body, the form that it gets, the nature of your mind, there is a very intelligent design behind it. Now, and it's also made in a way that it's constantly changing. Now, when I ask this question, the million-dollar question, who am I when in one body and mind, the Upanishads also show me that, hey, where there is a changing body and changing mind, there is what? One unchanging consciousness. So that means, in this body, I find three things. What are the things? One is the body, which is the form. Second is what? All knowledge and all power, which intricately designs this body. And the third thing is the truth of Ishvara, which is what? Consciousness. Anything in this universe that you see, you will find these three things. Even if you see an insentient rock, right? Because these objects in this world, they include not only living beings, it also includes what? Non-living beings, right? So that means, even though the rock is not able to tell you that if you throw me on somebody else, you will get papa, because you are not supposed to hurt anyone, right? So the rock is unable to interact with you, but because it doesn't have sukshma sharira, but what is there is what? Ishvara. And what is Ishvara? All knowledge, all power. How do you see all knowledge and all power in rock? Because if you begin to examine the rock, what you will find is what? All these minerals that are part of this rock, how it is formed, right? How atoms and particles organize to create this form, and it has a given function, so that in that there is intelligence. Please understand. So that means in insentient object, what is not there is what? Sukshma sharira, but what is there is what? Presence of Ishvara. This is why in the whole Vedic culture, what we can have, we can pray to, what we can invoke Shiva in a rock, in a stone. Because that rock is also manifestation of Ishvara. It doesn't have Sukshma Sharira, because of which it's not able to talk to you or interact with you, but it has Ishvara there. Right? The intelligent design which makes that the water, right? Water is not able to tell. I used to live in Bombay, right in front of the sea, right? So every day people will come and they'll, nobody, there's such a huge ocean, and they'll throw bottle here, they'll throw some garbage, so they'll throw everything. The water is not able to tell me, hey, you don't abuse me, you will get into trouble. It's not able to tell you that. Right? But at the same time, there is an intelligence. What is that intelligence? When the monsoon comes, everything that you have thrown, it all comes out, and the whole sand becomes full of plastic and garbage. Intelligence. Right? So that is an order. Whatever you have done, there are consequences for it. You think you are too smart, you are never smarter than Ishvara. So therefore, there are these laws which are infallible in nature. So therefore, what needs to be done is, that's why in Vedic culture, you don't hesitate to worship waters. You don't hesitate to worship the sun. You can say what? Sun, what is it? It's just hydrogen atoms. Why am I worshipping hydrogen atoms? It sounds silly. But the sun, which is what placed at the right distance from the earth, it's a blessing. It's such an intelligent design that these atoms convert themselves, hydrogen atoms convert themselves into helium and then provide energy. And the plants which are standing here quietly, seeming to not do anything, they absorb energy from the sun through a process called what? Photosynthesis. And not only they absorb the energy from the sun through photosynthesis, they produce what? Different fruits and different vegetables which give different nutrients for the body to be alive. Too much intelligence. So this Ishvara is something which is just, a human mind has to begin to see this incredible intelligence which is on around. And it has to, I loved Gabi's answer to Anya, which align to this intelligence, which then will take you to the truth of Ishvara. So this is why when you see how you study Vedanta and how critical it is that what you understand. Suppose you call what? The whole world as mithya. What will be your relationship to this world? Right? But suppose you say this world is manifestation of Ishvara and all that is here is Ishvara, what will be your relationship to it? Gratitude, love, connectedness, as Kurt said, everything is manifestation of one Ishvara.
Respect.
Huh?
Respect.
Respect. It makes all the difference in how you live in this world. Vedanta becomes unrelatable with using these kind of funny terms which don't mean anything much. You lose your connectivity to everything and you just start pretending it has absolutely not done. This is a tradition which is an amazing tradition. You have to change first. Emotionally, you have to become mature by understanding these laws and aligning with it, because you as a person, right, are searching for the truth. Where does the key to this creation lie? Where does it lie? Ishvara. Knowledge and power. You are confused. You are ignorant. Is Ishvara ignorant? No. It is. Sometimes that is your vision of Ishvara. That's not how Ishvara is. Yeah. So therefore, what happens is that this knowledge and power doesn't have, as we saw in any other field also, what you may not know the laws of gravity, but the very universe is designed with the very intricate knowledge of laws of gravity. So that means no knowledge is what? Away from Ishvara. Who is ignorant?
The mind.
So the mind has to remove what? The veil of ignorance. Whose help is needed? Ishvara's. The help and grace of Ishvara is needed in every knowledge. Most importantly, self-knowledge, where you need to understand the truth of Ishvara. So therefore, if you need, how do you earn grace from this Ishvara? because it's not one entity with a form and who's distributing grace. So how do you get grace of Ishvara?
More actions.
Excellent.
More
Understand,
actions.
understand the nature of the universe, understand how the laws operate, and align to the laws, and also use your prayers. When you find yourself helpless, use prayers, because by prayers you are creating one more cause. And that one more cause, and like the cause and the laws, like any cause and effect law, it will give you the result. And you help yourself to remove what? Ignorance. The fact that you meet the person who, as we saw, Dara was saying that what even the words of Upanishad, I loved it. He says it can become aparavidya without a teacher. That was brilliant. You can have the words of Upanishads which are revealing the truth to you, and you try to read it, and you can end up as Schopenhauer. You try to do it on your own. So that means that you meet a teacher who understands. That is also arrangement of Ishvara. Will you go and search with the battery where the guru is? And how will you find a guru? Tell me. Who is a guru? How will you know? Somebody who has long beard? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe. Possible. Right? So that means you being a teacher. What is the population of this universe? Just think rationally. Population of this world. Let's forget universe. Of this world.
Nearly 8 billion.
8 billion people. And what is the probability that you meet the wise person? Statistical probability.
Less than winning the lotto.
Less than winning a lotto. Right? But it still happens. Ishvara. After coming to the class, you don't fall asleep. Grace of Ishvara. Right? You need grace of Ishvara all the way. No matter how much you try, if you had the say over when to remove ignorance, it would be when?
No.
Now, somebody said yesterday. I can also little bit learn from you how to make people laugh. Okay. So therefore, so that means it's not entirely up to you. For that also you need whose help? Ishvara's help. So please do not say the world is an illusion, that the world is mithya. Be dismissive about the world, trying to stay away from the world. The whole self-growth is what? Improving your relationship with this world, where you see meaninglessness, where you see suffering. You have to begin to see what? The intricacies, the laws, and that having to align with these laws. Whole life changes. Laws include so many things. Laws of emotions. Yesterday Sahajo came to me, and that was so true. What she says is, I have to honor my emotional life because it follows certain laws. How I feel today, right? How can I just deny it? What if I'm in denial of how I feel today? I'm denying what? The laws of Ishvara. And you try to dodge the laws of Ishvara, what will come is what? Suffering. This is how the world is designed. So that means you have to honor your emotions. There is a reason why you feel the way you feel. Don't try to say, oh, I'm consciousness, this skipping of this whole thing and just kind of unconsciousness, I'm not affected by anything. You know, it really will it create such a huge conflict in your mind that at one point it will become so unsustainable, you'll break down. Because you are defying Ishvara and you need Ishvara's help. So therefore, this emotional life has to be addressed. So that means the first, how do you address emotional life? Just a little talk. It's important.
First, acknowledge it.
Exactly. The first step of dealing with emotional life is you have to acknowledge your emotions, you have to honor them, and you have to, as you very rightly said yesterday, that Swamiji said, welcome them. Why welcome them? Because now your understanding of the world has changed. And what is the understanding of the world? Everything is manifestation of Ishvara. And whatever comes to me is what? A result of my actions. And this infallible complexity of what? Laws and things which have come together and they present themselves to me. And they also give me an opportunity for correction if it is required. Whole attitude changes. You don't try to resist your emotions. Don't try to bypass your emotions. Don't try to pretend you don't have them. You have to embrace them and you need to convert them in the light of understanding of Ishvara. Right? So that means the very order which gave you this emotion, right? That very order also gives you an opportunity to what? To work towards it and also correct it. And intuitively you know it. That's why you can go to a psychologist, you can go to a self-help. See, you know it. In fact, the spirituality puts so much wrong knowledge in you and you think you're moribund. You yourself know that, hey, if you have a problem, you need to help yourself and you seek for some answers. You don't try to pretend, hey, I'm free. You don't do that. Right? So that means that the rationality is given to you. Now, in the name of spirituality, what happens is you become less rational. And the fallacy is, you think you're moribund. Problem. Multiple confusions. Multiple confusions. This is why, in the very beginning, I keep reminding people, please don't be pseudo-spiritual. Just be a natural, normal human being, right? Everything is so much easier. Okay? So therefore, this emotional life, the first thing is I have to accept it. I have to understand that there are reasons why I feel the way I feel, and there are certain causes, but the order also enables me to take this opportunity and put my emotional life in order. Now, also, what you need to understand is that even if you try very hard to retell the story, the emotions are not going to leave you as quickly as how you would like for them to go. There also there is an order. So that means certain pain, even when you change the stories, it will take some time to go. And this is why, while that pain manifests, you have to be prayerful. Example. Very important example. So, there was this person, she came to me and she said that she really had this. No, okay, no. Let me change the story. I have so many stories, I have to choose which one I'm going to tell. Okay, I decided to change the story. So one woman, she came to me and she told me that, she has a problem with lying. Lying. So she doesn't tell the truth. Okay, not lying down. So that was very interesting, right? It was very interesting, because very seldom somebody comes and tells you, right, that I have a problem of lying. So, generally what you think that you'll be really judged, right, that, oh, you're going to a person and telling. So I said, yeah, it's true, because really speaking, who is the person who's ever all the time 100% told the truth? There is no such person, right? So therefore, it's not like you're an evil or anything when you have this habit. And at least she had the courage to acknowledge it and also seek help and reveal herself to somebody else. That requires a lot of courage. It is not easy, right? So I told her, actually, please don't be ashamed. You have a lot of courage because you want to help yourself. Now, we had to then find, because she wanted to get rid of her habit, so her cognitive mind wanted not to lie, but the habit was what? Lying, and she found herself what? Helpless with reference to that habit that she had. So now, we needed to find out where did this habit come from in the first place, right? So I started engaging with her and I started kind of talking to her, and over the conversation, what emerged was something which was very, very amazing, right? I just asked questions, right? And what had happened is, when she was young, she had like siblings, and her siblings were really bright. So naturally, what a parent would do is what? Suppose there is a report card, there is something, what would the parents do?
Congratulate the bright ones.
Exactly. They would congratulate, they'll say, oh wow, you did so well, you did so well. Even if the parents did not actively tell her that you're stupid. But in her mind, a result comes and, the parents are like saying, wow, great, to somebody else. And then, you are standing there and feeling, small, right? You're feeling small. Over a period of time, this smallness converts into a story. And that feeling of smallness converts into a story of, my parents don't love me. I'm not acceptable. These are your own, what? Stories to yourself. I'm not acceptable. I am something, I have not much value. So what begins to happen is, your self-image begins to be what? Very low. When your self-image is very low, then there is no human being who's comfortable with low self-image. So that means you need to lift yourself up. And what is a child's mechanism to lift up this self-image? To pretend that it is what it is not. So suppose what she said is the habit, how it comes. Interesting. So the neighbor asked her, how was the result? She said what? She knew that the neighbor is not going to check, at that time maybe the neighbor will. But what happens is, in that time, she wanted what? Praise from the neighbor. So what she did is what? She said, oh, I got 90%. Right? So the neighbor said, wow. And that's what she was looking for. But after having said that, it created what? Guilt in her, because she knew that the 90% is not what she got, right? And also fear that what if the neighbor talks to my parents? How you become a complex human being. Simple things in life make your mind highly complex. Simple stories. Oh, now you not only have, now see what has happened. Not only you feel my parents don't love me, not only you are stuck with a low self-image, but now you also have added what? Guilt and fear. Now, this is just one little event and the life consists of multiple events. Multiple events of so many complexities, so many things happen, and the mind stories become bigger and bigger, the emotional burdens become bigger and bigger, and then we begin to suffer. So therefore, this child now, so the habit doesn't go. Why the habit doesn't go? Even if you are stuck with further problems of what? Fear and guilt, and your self-image is not yet corrected, you still get into habit of lying. Why? Because at that point of lying, it gives you what? The feedback of wow, that's all you are searching for as a child, which you are missing so much. So therefore, what happens is, helplessly, you become what? It's not that you're a bad person. Please understand. Don't make fun of people. Oh, he's a liar. Hey, it's not a small, it's not like people are like, oh, they're a liar. Hey, there are too many things which go into that person becoming the person that he or she is. And this is why the more and more you see Ishvara's order, you become an accommodative person. You begin to see the complexities. You begin to see the helplessness of people. That's when you become human. And that's when the grace of Ishvara begins to work for you. Otherwise you are in some technical jungle. Of thoughts and ideas. Right? So that means you have to begin to understand human vulnerabilities. When you begin to understand human vulnerabilities, which also includes not only others, it also includes you. And when you begin to be honest with that and you say, hey, just as I helped her see the minute she saw the dynamic of what was happening, before that, she was helpless. She didn't know what was going on. She wanted to change, she was unable to change. She was stuck with guilt, fears, low self-image, feeling not loved, and it kept interfering with the way her relationship went with her husband, with her kids, with everything. And she was caught in that network, not knowing how to come out of it. So therefore, I helped her, but I didn't know her story. How did I help her? Did I tell her, no, emotions are mithya, your true nature is consciousness? I will be doing so much disservice to that person. So that means what you need to do is first sort it out. You help the person to sort it out. At what level is this sorting out? at empirical level. You need to retell a story. Right? What is a retelling of a story? That I am stuck, as Sahaja was saying, I'm stuck with all this big mess for what? Series of connected reasons. One knot led to another knot, and the second knot led to the third knot, and now I find myself with 50 knots, and what is my job? To undo it. And how long it is going to take? One day? No, certainly not. So be realistic. Follow the orders. Be aligned to the order of Ishvara. It is going to take time. This is how the laws are. Right? The plastic that you threw, it took 8 months for it to come back on the shore. Right? So that means all these mess that you have created for yourself over a period, this is just one event, and life consists of multiple events. And therefore, it takes time. It takes time, but where is the trust? Tell me. Trust is what? In the laws of Ishvara. That if I change, then what? The feedback, I'm changing the whole trajectory of my life.
And is it so even if you change, the result might not be
immediately? Absolutely. But even though, exactly as I told you, even if you change, there is a time lag between the change of the story and what? The change, the reducing of the feelings. There is a time lag. And that also is part of Ishvara. But if you don't undo this story, it will remain. That is also the order of Ishvara. This is why Swamiji used to say 2 things about Ishvara. Please note down. You can't bypass the order of Ishvara. And the second thing is, you have to settle the account with Ishvara before the veils of ignorance is removed. Your self-identity, which is really your true nature, the veil of ignorance is lifted when this work is done.
What is done?
The emotional growth. Yeah, emotional growth. Okay. Emotional growth and taking care of all these angularities that you have acquired in your life. All these.
The second sentence, you have to settle with?
Account with Ishvara. 2 sentences, simple sentences, big sentences.
Is this part of Karma Yoga?
Yeah, so wonderful. So Karma Yoga includes several things. It is, one is to taking care of your emotional life. It is also part of Karma Yoga, because Karma Yoga technically means you are preparing yourself for the knowledge. Technically it means through the actions you are preparing yourself for knowledge. So when you perform actions, situations will arise which will evoke emotions. Now, and it gives you an opportunity for correction. Yeah? So therefore, when you understand that, see now when this girl, let's come back to this girl. So when the girl understood what exactly was going on, just through question and answer, now she understood that this habit that she helplessly has is a result of what? That the initial, look at this, the initial input came from whom? The parents. Because the parents were kind of not knowingly, right? Parents could be knowingly telling you you're stupid. That also happens, by the way.
That's easier.
Right? That also can happen. But even if parents don't tell you, I mean, yes, there is some response which is, giving more attention to your brother and sister than you. That's an empirical response, right? So that means there is some empiricality to it, right? It's not like she is just hallucinating, right? So that means there are some empirical facts, but in addition to the empirical facts, what she has also done to make her life so miserable is what? Added her own stories, which has made the whole, the situation so big. Right? So that means now, as an adult, as a child, she was helpless. She didn't know, and even as an adult, she was helpless. But now that she knows what she has to do, tell me.
Talk to her parents.
Oh, wow.
Talk to her parents.
She has
Okay.
to
Look at the
Refrain. She could
it's
refrain.
reframe it, yeah. Understand the
Okay.
story.
So one possibility is good. Actually, it's a good possibility, but it doesn't always happen, and it's not always possible, right? You talk to your parents and settle. I mean, try to settle, but most of the time it's very hard. It's not easy, right?
Yeah.
And the availability of parents and their knowledge, and it's kind of hard.
And
Yeah.
years has passed.
Years have passed. So, I mean, no, I don't want to dismiss it as a possibility, because there are many conflicts with, for example, husband and wife, and there are certain communication patterns and things like that, and you can talk to each other. So I don't want to dismiss it as an option. What I want to say it's sometimes available, sometimes not available.
And even
That
then
option.
you can say, no, it isn't true.
Exactly, right? So that means, yeah. So that could be one possibility. But the most important thing is what you have to retell the story. And what is that retelling of the story that you have to tell? That yes, as a child, that is what we call honoring emotion. I felt all this, and because of this, I got into this habit, which what kind of added my load by doing this and this and this. And it's okay because it's following the order of Ishvara. Really.
You couldn't
But-
have done it. You couldn't have done it otherwise,
Yeah.
because
I mean, it has already
if
happened.
you don't say that, then you feel guilty about what happened.
Exactly. So this is why that you have to say that at that given point in time, what with my understanding and how I felt, I couldn't have done it otherwise. So that means the first thing that you have to do is what? Acknowledge the emotion and free yourself from the guilt and shame of that emotion, as well as all the subsequent consequences which took place. Now, but you can't just now say, oh, it's all Ishvara. Anything I say, any person can twist and say, oh, so now I know what to do. Everything is Ishvara. And you continue to lie and say, yeah, everything is Ishvara. No. The same order has now also given you an opportunity to retell the story and change the trajectory of your life. So what you need to tell yourself is, as a child I was helpless, now I'm an adult. Now I'm an adult and I'm capable of retelling myself a story, right? And I can say that, hey, this low self-image, right, that I am suffering from is a result of only what one kind of an input that somebody gave. And your life consists of how many different events? How many different events and how many different inputs? Many events, many inputs. And what are you holding on to? One. And not only holding on to one, but also the load of the one, and suffering and suffering and suffering. So that means you can say that, hey, this was one of the inputs. Don't deny that input, but say this was one of the inputs. There are so many other inputs that I got. Right? So that means, suppose you are a researcher and you want to find out something, right? And you have this group of data and you take only one data and one type of data and build one whole theory on it. How valid will be your theory? Not much, because so much is ignored in your data collection, which gives you a wrong representation. Here it is exactly the same. It's there. Don't think it's not there. But there is so much more. When you begin to see so much more, which is also, this is when you begin also to see the grace of Ishvara. That yeah, maybe my parents, but I did have a loving grandfather who loved me and who hugged me. That is also a fact. I had friends who helped me. This is where the whole thing, when I was in trouble, somebody came along and somebody helped me. That's when you begin to see the entire play, that nobody is totally doomed. Opportunities come and opportunities after opportunities come, and you have to learn to what? Make use of these opportunities, or at least see the fact that the world is not this mean, unfair place where you are just put to suffer for no reason. This story has to change. Right? Yeah.
What about an Indian farmer, for instance? The drought comes,
Yes.
nothing is growing, he can't feed his family anymore, he has lots of debt, and he kills himself because he just can't.
Yeah.
You know, where is the alignment here, and where is his
Yeah.
chance, and where is, I mean...
See, the thing is, what happens is, we look at a life as a story like this. What we miss out on is so many details, right? So what happens is, suppose that person is an alcoholic. All this doesn't come in the story, right? That he wasted away the money. That doesn't come in the story. Somebody came and asked him to say, okay, let's do organic farming so that we can and he didn't want to do it, right? So that means these stories, when we tell about others, we create such a gloomy picture of no possibilities. Actually, what we need to, this is where you need, Ishvara means there is no human being without possibilities. This is a fact. So that means these details of life, if you miss out, if I paid, I don't need to say that. I can also say anything about the Syrian refugee, right?
Exactly.
I mean, or in Germany, what happened during Second World War? People had no choice. They had to go and join the Nazi. I mean, that, please don't, it's true. It's true. At the same time, within that, there are so many people who acted very differently. That is also a fact. So that means your human choices are always, if you begin to see the details, human choices are always there. Your ability to collapse them is something that you have to learn to help yourself. If you don't learn to help yourself, the others have where they are because they haven't learned to help themselves. So that's why the mess keeps on increasing.
But they don't have the chance to learn it.
See, this not having chance to learn is a very judgmental subject. You know, how do you know about somebody's life? You don't actually know, right? You ask yourself, the first thing to ask is, do I have chance to learn or not? They don't have chance to learn or not, as though you know their whole life and all the details. You don't know, right? So that means everybody has a chance to learn. Some maybe are so conditioned by certain limitation, and therefore maybe they have to go through those circumstances in order to grow also. I mean, who knows? Right? The question is, now you're not trying to solve the whole world's problem. What are you trying to do here? Understand your true nature. And for understanding your true nature, these accounts have to be settled. If you don't settle this account by telling yourself it's not possible to change many things because this farmer is unable to change, that means you're using the example of farmer to tell yourself, anyway, even I can't change it. So therefore, really, the intricacies, and this is why, in fact, in this period that we live, it's a very interesting period. The Indian Prime Minister was a chaiwala. A chaiwala. You know chai? He was selling tea in the railway station as a kid. He had no money. He had absolutely nothing. If you just look at the possibility, right? If you just read a story, you will say, this guy has no chance in life. Tobia told us a nice story yesterday, which was about this actor. What was this actor? He told this story. Tobia, you want to tell the story?
No, go for it.
Okay. Tobia told us a nice story. What is that? That, you know, it was in Hollywood, right? So in Hollywood, what is the name of the actor?
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right? So now he was this big guy, you know, not looking young, this huge guy. And at that time, what was the trend in Hollywood? Slim and nice and elegant and all that. So he wanted to become a Hollywood actor. So he went and he met many people, and everybody laughed at him and said, hey, you have no chance. And then what did he say?
I'll be back.
So what happens is, yeah. So then what happened at one point is what? That they needed some guy who had to do only one sentence. And what was that one sentence?
Like it was Total Recall, the Hasta la Vista baby.
Hasta la vista la baby. The whole movie, he had to only say one sentence. Right? And be like this big heart. And how much he got paid for that?
I think over 50 million.
Over $50 million. Okay? So that means what? Yes, I mean, what is the probability? If you're listening to this story of this Hulk, right, who wants to make millions, and you don't know any detail, it seems like he has no chance. Right? This is why in Bhagavad Gita, it is beautiful. It says, Gahana Karmano Gatihi. The whole thing of how this cause and effect, how it will evolve, and how, what opportunities will arise, and from where to where you go, it's just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. This is where you have to give up your resistance, you have to give up your hopelessness, you have to give up your feeling of, oh, people are caught in situations where there is no way out. This is a creation of mind. This is not how Ishvara works. And this is why you have to learn to flow with life. Flow with ease. And dancer. And what, the last piece of this dancer, what she was saying? Aham Brahma Asmi. right?
In
So that means
me is
in me
Vishnu.
is the whole universe. So
In
she
me
was
is
talking from
Krishna,
the
in
standpoint
me is Shiva.
is Shiva, in me is beautiful dance. With freedom, with joy, with circles, and with, beautiful. So that means you have to change the way you look at the world. Either you can find it a hard, difficult world where so much suffering is given to you, and my dad is like this, and my mom is like that, and I am like that, and this one did this to me, and it's endless. And it's true also. It's true.
If you believe it.
Yeah, so I mean it's true in some ways. It's not like we are all hallucinating, right? But also at the same time, there are opportunities, right? That's also true. Right? So therefore, these kind of transformation it's very, in India, they give stories like this, interesting stories. See, once I start telling stories, my Vedanta goes.
Yes, Vedanta.
This is also Vedanta. Exactly. This is also Vedanta. Vedanta is human also. Yeah. Right? There is a story which is about the author of Ramayana, Valmiki. You know this story? No. The Valmiki was a thief. Yeah. So his job was, he was living in a small village which was by the forest. So whoever was passing by the forest, he would steal his money and wealth and everything, and he would go. So one day Narada was passing the forest, and Valmiki was wanting to steal things from him. So Narada said, you want to steal things from me, but I'm asking you why you're doing it. So he started engaging in a dialogue, right? So he says, oh, I'm doing it because I have to support my family. I'm not doing it for myself. I take the money that I get from you and I give it to my wife. So my wife cooks and provides for the family. So that's why I'm doing it. It's not like I'm not selfish, I'm doing it for my family. Narada said, oh, okay. So, but you have other means of supporting the family. So many people in this world support their families, but they don't steal, right? So you have other options. Have you explored other options? So he says, yeah, but this is the easiest option. So I'm a smart guy, I want to make my life easy. So Narada says, okay, if the easiness is the criteria, then there are consequences also. Every choice that you may think it's easy, but every choice has a consequence. And that consequence of an easy choice may not be that easy. If you have stolen somebody else's wealth for your easiness, then it has consequences. Seen and unseen result. It'll catch up with you sometime. So he says, oh, if it comes, it's okay. I'll distribute it among my family, no problem, right? I'm doing it not only for myself, actually I'm doing it for my family. So the consequences will also be shared by my family. So I only have to only a part of this consequence, and I can live with it. Narada was clever. Narada said, okay, go ask your family, will they share the consequences? Narada said, of course. I mean, yes, go ask them. He goes to his wife and he says, you know, I've been stealing. to provide you for food, and now somebody is telling me that there are consequences for that. And not so good ones, right? Because I'm in my pursuit to feed you, I'm actually depriving somebody else of their wealth, and for no reason, right? So that means now I'm sure you will what share the consequences of that, right? Not so good consequences. She said, what do you think was her answer? No way. Indian women are not as weak as what we think. She was no way, right? So he says, oh, my wives are always like that. They are highly selfish, right? But my kids are definitely going to what? Share the consequences. Goes to his kids and asks, hey, will you share? I'm actually working so hard. It's not easy to kind of, steal things and all. And I'm doing it for you. And just to give you all the opportunities in life. But now there are some consequences as a side effect. Will you take it? Kids, no way. So now, Narada, uh-oh, I have been telling myself,
Valmiki.
so Valmiki. I have been telling myself that I can, do this and what for my family. My family says, hey, your job is to what? Bring us, and how you do it, it's your problem. We are not part of that. That made him think. The time has come for him to stop justifying and take the responsibility of his actions and understand that there are consequences. Luckily, that click happened. He understood that this was all just justification. His mind, in fact, he had other options. He didn't explore them enough. This was an easy way. So these are the denied possibilities of choices. Nobody is helpless. So therefore, he tells Narada, my God, I have accumulated what? Huge consequences. For how many years I have done this? Now what do I do? All these papas that I am stuck with. Narada says, just do one thing. What? Just repeat one mantra. So now all of us want to know what that mantra is. Right? He says, just repeat Mara, 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 Mara. What happened is, Valmiki sat down and that Mara, 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 Mara became what? Rama, 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 Rama. And he got so absorbed in this Rama, 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 Rama. Just kept repeating and repeating. He got so absorbed that he forgot everything. And what happened is, what an ant hill built around him. This is a story of Ramayana. Amazing story. So, what? The ant hill built around him. Then Narada had gone and then he was coming back. And he saw what? An ant hill. And from the ant hill was coming what? Rama, 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 Rama. And he breaks open the ant hill. Who comes out is not, his previous name was Ratnakar. Who comes out is Valmiki, a transformed person. He's no longer that thief anymore. One person, Narada, just by asking a few questions, changed the whole trajectory of his life. Now, being that person, he says, how I want to do something meaningful with my life. So Valmiki, Narada says, there is this person called Rama. He is this amazing person who lives, goes through suffering, but he has this sight of dharma. Because what problem Valmiki had a problem with dharma. So now write his story and the length to which you can undergo pain to honor dharma. Then he writes that story of Ramayana, the story of Rama. Okay? So now don't ask me why Ram did this and that. There's a whole big question, and that for that we need another retreat. But the story shows that the possibility of transformation is given to everyone. So therefore, some situations in your life will give you possibility. Valmiki, that Ratnakar, who was he could have just dismissed Narada. How do I know there are consequences or not? And the story would have been over. Prove to me. Or shut up. Exactly. Shut up. Give me your money. Right? So this is what we call possibilities. Whether they are collapsed or not collapsed is entirely up to us. So this is why you need to go into intricacies. And therefore, even as a Vedantic, when you come to Vedanta, Ishvara gives you one more chance to what? Change the story. Now you have come to me. Now you see all that is here is me. Change your story. And this is why, if you tell another story is, I'm consciousness, I don't care about all of this, Ishvara will sit and laugh at you. Yet another big chance, missed it. So therefore, and he will still be patient and still give you some little bit more challenges. And one day, you will come to a Vedanta class where somebody will tell you that Ishvara's emotional laws cannot be bypassed. You will hear it. Then also you have a choice. Either to leave this, saying this is too much work, or to say, hey, that is true. All that is here is Ishvara, and I need Ishvara's help all the way. I don't need to be afraid of the world. That whole world that I think is meaningless and unfair and material that I have to stay away from is all nothing but Ishvara. You have to recreate the relationship with Ishvara where you are not afraid of things. That you are not, your freedom doesn't come from staying away from the world. You are in midst of things, and what doesn't lose sight is the presence of infallible laws of Ishvara. And you become this healthy, enthusiastic, cheerful person. Released from the loads that you are carrying. And that is what we call. And the presence of Ishvara and truth of Ishvara shines as clear as daylight in your buddhi. This is the final possibility that is given to a human being. And human being is also given a choice whether to go all the way or stop somewhere else, in between. The possibility is given. And therefore, what? And if the right possibilities are about that, if you collapse, if you're intelligent and you use this to what, you can get there. That's a possibility. And you stop somewhere in between. You are what? Still within this universe. What? Karma, karma phala, seen result, unseen result, and then different lokas and come back again. Sterling as Peter. So you've learned something. Okay, so now I have gone way over time. Revision of this was very important before proceeding. Okay, you need to understand what are the implications of all the things that we saw. These details of what will happen to me and all is okay, fine. First, you have to understand what are the big implications of this. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om